All right. Good afternoon. Sunday, November 8th. Sunday submission for MMAnews.com. I am Ed Carbazel. Please follow me on Twitter at Carbazel. And make sure you're reading your news over at MMAnews.com. Going to do some recap with a lot of interesting stuff happening. Big news week overall, I know. But a lot of interesting stuff happening over at in the world of mixed martial arts, in the UFC Bellator as well in November 11th, which is Veterans Day. There's going to be an event on NBC Sports with Extreme Fighting Championships, and they're going to be trying some new things in the sport. So a lot of exciting things happening in the world of mixed martial arts. Before we get into the stuff that just happened and what went on, if you like what we're doing here at MMAnews.com, please like and subscribe to the YouTube channel. We've got a lot of fun content like this and interviews with Aspen Ladd, Stephen Wonderboy Thompson, and Pedro Carvalho, who's fighting at Bellator 252. I know I mentioned that last week, but that interview's up there, and that event is soon, so you might want to go and take a look at it. So if you like what we're doing, make sure you do a thumbs up, like the video, do the bell notification, subscribe to MMAnews.com YouTube channel. So a lot of MMA math is going to be used today for today's episode. So I'm going to bring up the results over at the website for last night's ESPN, UFC and ESPN Plus 40 or Fight Night 13, whatever the hell you want to call it. First off, so the reason why I bring up the MMA math, because I know obviously both Bellator and the UFC didn't plan any of this, right? To do main event, have both their Bellator 251 and this UFC card headline with people in the same weight class that could possibly be fighting for titles after their wins that they got. So by now, obviously the results are up on our website, and you can see that Glover Teixeira, who I picked to win, by the way, won. I thought he'd do a decision, but he beat returning Thiago Santos with a rear naked choke in the third round of last night's event. So the news that was trending before that was, maybe there's going to be a Israel Adesanya and Jan Blachowicz fighting for the light heavyweight title. It's something trendy. Champ versus champ is always kind of a big deal in fight sports. It almost seems like with there's a refreshing, a breath of fresh air coming to the light heavyweight division in the UFC because of John Jones wanting to pursue heavyweight title fight. Excuse me. I think people would be more inclined to watch John Jones fight Israel Adesanya. That's been selling itself for a little while now. But Israel Adesanya went on record saying that he doesn't care for a rematch with Robert Whittaker. So it looks like a 205 fight is going to be something in the works for him. So what I find interesting, and I apologize if I'm making a lot of dad noises this week because New Jersey, we just went through it's like 77 degrees the last 4 days, which is fantastic. I love it. Can't wait to get this over with so I can get out and enjoy the sun. But early in the week, it was like 30 degrees, freezing. So everyone's getting the sniffles, and they probably think they got coronavirus because of the stupid seasons that we have here in the Northeast, especially in New Jersey. So I apologize for my dad noises if I'm making too many of them. All right. So the where was I? I was talking about the whole light heavyweight mix up at the UFC. It's not really a mix up. It's again breath of fresh air. If you look at I brought up Glover's. Let me take this down so I can bring up. I brought up here, because obviously he pulled off the win last night, and one of the things I think is that's pretty significant for the division is that the fact that he's still in title contention, and so they were trying to do this thing with Blachowicz and Adesanya, and then all of a sudden Glover Teixeira, who it's funny because he was focused on, obviously he's focused on his fight with Thiago Santos. Thiago Santos fought a great fight before he got hurt and he was away for a while, and that's another interesting point that I'm going to bring up later about Thiago Santos' injury leave and the type of injury he had. But so the fight happens, right? Before the fight, Glover sits down with ESPN on SportsCenter and he says, that he's not interested in the title fight right now because he's focused on his fight with Santos, right? So the fight happens, he wins, third round submission, and then he says he wants his title shot. So now he's obviously, because the fight's out of the way, he wants a title shot. And I mean, people, especially in combat sports, fighters always get written off, especially when they're in their 40s like he is. But when Laura Sanko spoke with Dana White last night, it looks like he's inclined to agree with him. Like a lot of folks, he counted Teixeira out, and it looks like that's a mistake that he's not going to make anymore. I didn't make them because Glover Teixeira has always been a tough SOB. But here's the thing that I'm going to bring up with Thiago Santos, and this is how I'm going to tie it to Corey Anderson, because all these light heavyweights, it's 6 degrees separation and stuff like that. And I know Corey Anderson's, he's in Bellator. We're going to talk about that too. The thing about it was a great win, but I know the first round Thiago Santos came at him a little hard, and the Teixeira again, tough as nails. But it's he fought a man that came back after having both his legs operated on. I think the count is 500 days out of action before he had to do rehab and everything to get back to action. So credit to Santos, he looked good. Hopefully, I haven't seen any injury reports, but hopefully he hadn't re-injured anything, or the knees are still good. Chael Sonnen had a really good quote when he came back out of taking some time off of fighting, is that first one back doesn't count. So, he kept his ranking and everything, even with what's happening. And the rankings, of course, if you don't know, UFC updates their rankings every Tuesday. So Tuesday we'll see how that works out. But anyway, so Teixeira is calling for a title shot. Dana White seems to think that's a good idea. And then this morning, Jan Blachowicz, I'm just going to read his tweet off. I'm not going to put it on screen because my laptop's acting funny. But so after the fight, Blachowicz says, "Great fight and incredible run by Teixeira. You totally deserve to fight for the title and get a taste of the legendary Polish power." He puts a hashtag, legendary Polish power. "If Adesanya can't wait till March, let's go." So it looks like he's in if Adesanya doesn't want to wait until March. I mean, Adesanya just fought, right? So maybe he can wait till March. With the year closing and COVID still being a thing, and these fighters are all over the place. Travel numbers are spiking, and I hate to bring that into this stream, all that news, all that bad news, but it's it's the world we live in, so it's part of everything. It's going to touch a lot of stuff that we do. So who knows what's going to happen? But if Teixeira, if they can get them two to fight, like you said, if they're both ready to go before March, then obviously we're going to get that fight, which means maybe the Adesanya John Jones thing could still happen, but John Jones is too busy bulking up. So I think the timing for that is going to push it further away based on what they're both doing, especially with the indecisiveness of John Jones saying he wants to go back and get his belt back, heavyweight Adesanya. There's a lot of options there for him, and I guess that's not a bad thing. So anyway, the reason why I'm tying this, because you have Blachowicz, you have Teixeira, all the people. This is how I'm going to tie it to Corey Anderson and his recent victory at Bellator 251. So Corey Anderson, let's make sure I'm looking at the right record. Glover Teixeira, all right. Glover Teixeira lost a decision to Corey Anderson in 2018 when they fought in the UFC, right? I'll have to bring this up in another tab so I don't misread anything. Right? Okay. So Corey Anderson, he just picked up his victory at Bellator 251, light heavyweight fight. He says he wants the title shot. He said he's willing to face. I mean, he said whoever's got the strap, but Phil Davis and Vadim Nemkov were the names that came up. Because those are the guys that are going to be fighting for the title there. At Bellator MMA. So I think it's worth noting that looking at now, I said I was going to do some MMA math here. Full disclosure, MMA math is stupid, hard, and it's never really right. There's really nothing. There's no science behind it. But all right. So Corey Anderson lost to Blachowicz in 2020, beginning of this year, first round knockout, right? And then, but he also holds a win over him because they fought back. They fought back in 2015, where he won a decision over him. So Corey Anderson is definitely a world class top light heavyweight. They put his first fight against Melvin Meinhof, who is a awesome kickboxer, world class kickboxer. But it was a mismatch, in my opinion. That was a mismatch. All due respect to Manhoff, who's, again, I mean, we've seen him put away some dudes, but I think it was in 2015 or 2016. And I mentioned this on the podcast that I do with my buddy Matt Hawkins, Coast to Coast Combat Hour, when we did our predictions for the fight. I mean, I picked Anderson to win. It was hard not to pick Anderson to win because, Manhoff's already talking about retiring. I think he says he's got 2 fights after this fight on his contract, and he's hoping to do one like in Amsterdam. To like kind of fight in front of his hometown crowd for once before he walks away from combat sports. But he also suffered a string of knockouts where he was questioning his how much longer he's going to do it. I want to say 2015, 2016. I'd have to go back and look at his record. I don't want to open up too many tabs on my laptop because it might mess up my stream recording here. But so you had Teixeira fight somebody that came off of 2 really bad knee injuries, surgeries, and then you had Anderson fight. And I'm just doing this to play devil's advocate. Like, I'm not trying to badmouth anybody, but there's a lot of hype behind these wins, and both of them are calling for title shots. But you have to look at the circumstances. Was Santos really ready? I mean, if you've anyone that trains knows if you take time away from it and you go back to it, and probably a lot of people have gone through this recently with the shutdowns of the pandemic, people with gyms and you train, like myself included, there's months that we did no training, and then we went back, and it was almost like you had to reacclimate yourself to that. So think about Santos, who had to reacclimate himself to a fight camp and everything after doing his rehab and getting his legs good underneath him to go back into fighting. Meinhof, who had to deal with his own shutdown stuff and like that, but is also, probably looking at the end of his career, or is already thinking about how to close out his career, fighting someone that's hungry like Corey Anderson. So again, not to take away from their wins, but I mean, you have to question. I think we're going to see what's really left in both of these guys should they get their title shots or fight a title contender. Like, say if he does get if Corey Anderson does get Nemkov or Davis, that's where we're going to see, that's where we're going to see the true. I don't want to say competitive. I'm trying not to disparage the losers of both events because they've already proved themselves in the sport in their own right with the time they put in. But then the fight after these wins are the ones that's going to be, obviously if Teixeira does get the title shot, that's the fight we're going to see. And let me just check. I got to scroll down his record really quick. I mean, it's a fight we haven't seen with Teixeira, right? I'm on Teixeira. He's got the loss to Anderson, Phil Davis, but he's always fought like, every time Teixeira's on a what's this? 1, 2, 3, 4. Last night makes 5. That's a 5-fight win streak at light heavyweight, and he is 41 years old. So it's something that you really can't ignore. And Dana White seems ready to listen, sit down, and make a fight happen with him. Listen, if you want to give him that fight, give him his shot. They did it for Daniel Cormier when he said that was. I mean, it's gonna keep the division alive, but you also have to worry about if you put a belt, if you give someone a fight for a title and they get the belt and they're going to walk away from the sport, then you have to, it's good and it's bad because you have the marketability of, okay, the champ retired. Now we have to make these two title fight, but the UFC likes to book their stuff, their fights off of hype lately. The ranking, we all know the rankings haven't meant much anyway in recent years in the UFC. A lot of talk has come of them with the whole thing with the pound for pound and John Jones making his complaints and just the way fights are made in general over there. At least Bellator has put together tournaments and things like that to get guys recognized in the slot where they should be recognized. So that's just something to pay attention to. And again, like I said, I know the Extreme Fighting Championships promotion that I mentioned at the beginning when I started recording. Again, that's going to be Wednesday night. So if you're looking for some combat sports Wednesday night, it's not a new promotion, but it's new to NBC Sports, and being on a platform like that, it's going to probably bring in a lot of new fans, a lot of fighters to keep an eye on there. There might be some you never heard of. There's some vets fighting there too. But the way that they're doing things, there's going to be tournaments. They're going to do super fights with big names. And then I think they're going to have like their own version of like an up and comers contender series type of thing. So make sure you pay attention to that. But the whole light heavyweight situation in mixed martial arts, it's like a weird coincidence, but it's gotten very interesting. John Jones was dominant for so long in his division. It's almost as if, I don't want to say he made it boring, but as long as he was at the top, it's okay. Like all these guys got to Jones for him to beat them. And regardless of the recent fights, I know like a lot of people thought the Dominic Reyes fight could have gone Dominic's way. I thought the Thiago Santos fight when Santos fought him, I thought that would have been something that would have upset. I actually had money on Santos. I liked Marreta's rise to that shot, and but when he got there, Jones seems to find he just has a natural ability to shut down a lot of his opponents, especially in that division. So, but that's 2 fights removed because he fought Reyes. Jones fought Reyes, and then I believe Santos was before that. So, I mean, Teixeira beats somebody that just fought for a title shot. So there's really no, I mean, it's hard to disagree with him. And again, Dana White's already seems like he's on the same page. So we're going to see a lot of interesting things there. And with Corey Anderson, I mean, I'll say one thing about the win. I mean, regardless of what I said about Manhoff, and again, I meant no disrespect to Manhoff, but, it is nice to see him, the energy afterwards that he put out in the post-fight press conference in Corey Anderson at Bellator 251. It showed that he's definitely he's got a renewed interest, because he was kind of like, if you look at the media he did that week leading up to the fight, he seemed like, I want to get paid to fight, make what I'm worth. But then, obviously he went through a whole belt. He did his camp, media, fought the fight, won. Now he's broken the ice with his Bellator debut, and it seems like he's in full swing. And now he's asking for a title shot. So you got both these 205ers that won last week and are asking for title shots. So it's really good to see at 205. I think it's making the division exciting again. Because I feel like maybe within the last year, 155 has been the most exciting. I mean, you had some stuff happen with heavyweight, the Stipe DC thing, but it's nice to see. I mean, in a world where it seems like we might start shutting things down again, I mean, it is refreshing to see some sort of forward, fresh mobility I mean, I know we're probably going to get that in other ways, you know, with the news in the political news that happened yesterday. But you know, looking ahead, it makes it exciting. And speaking of looking ahead, I mean, we're just a step away from mixed martial arts. If you saw the news in boxing, and we do cover boxing at MMAnews.com. I know we tend to do the what do they call the casuals, but it's usually the biggest reported news. When you look at the Wilder and the Furies and stuff like that. So if you saw Saul Canelo Alvarez's manager put out a social media post Friday that said that Canelo's a free agent. He has parted ways with DAZN, who still currently broadcasts Bellator events. I think they're just waiting for that contract to run out. If we're being honest, DAZN was never invested in mixed martial arts, and they put all their eggs in the boxing basket, mainly the egg of Canelo and Triple G. So they snatched up quite a few big names in boxing to get broadcasting rights. COVID-19 hits. There's no events happening. They get Golden Boy on board with them, and then you got boxers. You got professional fighters that want to fight that can't seem to find fights. Meanwhile, here we have all these fight bubbles going on, and I know stuff is coming back or whatever, but when it comes to somebody of the caliber and the name recognition and marketability of Canelo, they want fights. They're not making the money to pay him to sit home and not fight. So it looks like they're. It's absolutely doesn't look like it. It's happened. Canelo's a free agent, so his trainer also said that there's let me see if I can read the quote directly to you. So I did share it. Shared it with my buddies over at the Last Round podcast. If you're a boxing podcast person, make sure you check out the Last Round, because I'm sure they're going to discuss it. They've had Eddie Hearn on there a couple of times. I'm trying to find. Sorry, give me a moment. I'm trying to find. Here we go. Eddie Reynoso. I'm going to read you his post. So he writes, in my role as manager and coach of Saul Canelo Alvarez, I allow myself to communicate to the boxing community and to all our fans that starting today, November 6th, that was Friday, Canelo becomes a free agent. So we are ready to continue his boxing career. All this time we've been working very hard in the gym, and if you've watched, he's put a lot of stuff like that on social media of Canelo training, staying ready. So all this time we have been putting work very hard in the gym with a lot of responsibility and discipline to be in great physical shape and ready to fight this year. And this is him writing it, so I'm reading it. Ready to fight this year, and it will be. We will announce date, rival, and place very soon. And we will return stronger than ever to keep growing and showing that Mexican boxing is still the best. Thank you, Eddie Reynoso. That's from his post on his Twitter Friday. It's at Canelo Team if you want to see it. So let me go back to this. All right. So the reason I bring that up is if you look at the report that ESPN Deportes first reported it, and their sources said that there's likely going to be something in December with him for under the PBC banner. And I believe PBC is with are they with Fox now? Premier Boxing Champion. With boxing, you never know, because the thing boxing does that MMA really doesn't do is co-promote. Like if you look at the Mayweather McGregor thing, that the UFC McGregor Entertainment, there's so many hands in the pot of boxing. I'm wondering if they do a Premier Boxing Championship thing, and that's I think they do. I'm pretty sure they do. Well, I'm thinking Top Rank. I might be confusing them with Top Rank, PBC. So either way, there's either, but they did do. If I'm remembering correctly, I forget which one of the bigger. I wrote about it, and I should know this, but it's up on MMAnews.com. There was a Fox Sports and ESPN co-promoted boxing event. So PBC is under one of those networks, and they've worked together before. Canelo brings in money, so that I'm pretty sure that would have them. They just featured a pretty notable boxing card on ESPN that would have normally been a pay-per-view on regular ESPN, and that was big for boxing. So I would not be surprised if that's something we see on ESPN or ESPN Plus for that matter, just to bring in numbers and get Canelo, because Canelo's going to draw no matter where it happens. Again, the casuals come in droves for names like Canelo, Tyson Fury, Deontay Wilder. Even Anthony Ruiz is in that mix now, who's still signed under DAZN. Canelo's free agency, it's going to be one of those things where we see the future of combat sports programming and how it's really going to go, because we can't ignore the pandemic. COVID-19, ESPN is under the Disney, and they just laid off a bunch of people. Was that last Thursday they reported that, right? But they also reported earlier that their earnings through their streaming service, because the Disney owns them, so you have that triple play deal with Hulu, ESPN Plus, and the Disney stuff. I forget who said that the UFC's moving forward during the pandemic brought in a lot of new numbers for folks that wanted to see. So if you remember when DAZN came out, DAZN was supposed to be the pay-per-view killer, and here we see, not for nothing, we see, at least here in the U.S., we see DAZN dying a slow death. So it looks like it was happening, not for nothing. It was happening when they first came on, snatching up Golden Boy and Triple G and Canelo and Anthony Ruiz, Anthony Joshua, all that stuff happened when DAZN was fresh. But now when COVID-19 turned the tables, it looks like it's still, even though they reported earnings, the long-term, what I read as far as the business side, I think the long-term deals that ESPN had with like the cable companies and wire cutters, that they're still losing money in the respective people. They jumped in the streaming game too late, even though it's doing well for them. They still jumped in too late. So it looks like more people that do buy pay-per-views are willing to go through the ESPN Plus paywall to buy, UFC events versus boxing, and especially boxing pay-per-views. All the pay-per-views have gotten more expensive over time. It's just the way of the business. But if it brings boxing, I think bringing boxing back to regular ESPN the way that they did recently, that can be the thing that brings in that renews interest in boxing, even for the casual combat sports fans. Again, me as a somebody that grew up, I'm Mexican. My dad boxed before he became an entrepreneur with his own business. So boxing is I don't knock boxing. Boxing is a sport that I'll still tune in and watch. It's just the marketing behind it they've aged themselves away from their own fans, and you have to find a bigger way to push it. So something's going to happen here with Canelo. I'm just pulling stuff out of the air now, because we saw Aaron Bronstetter, and I'm sorry, Aaron, my Canadian friend, for saying your name wrong if I said it wrong. He tweeted that there's going to be an all-female Zuffa boxing card somewhere. Let me see if I can find that. I know I shared that recently because he put that out on before. Here we go. He put that out yesterday. Aaron Bronstetter. Per this report from Journal de Montreal, Zuffa Boxing is planning an all-female boxing event on December 11th in Las Vegas, and it's going to have Clarissa Shields versus Marie Dicara that would air on UFC Fight Pass. So that's another thing. People were wondering what Dana White was doing with Zuffa Boxing. If this is how they're going to do boxing, that's somebody that knows how to market things correctly. And if they can find a way to lure Canelo, imagine if Canelo goes and signs under Zuffa Boxing 2021, like then they're giving Dana White a stranglehold on the on combat sport, not stranglehold. Stranglehold's negative. I'm not trying to be negative. I mean, say what you will about him, but his mind for business when it comes to combat sports. I mean, he was all in on the internet in the early days of the UFC, and now look at now they're all streaming. I mean, technically, I'm going a little over here, but let's say something. I mean, I know they have a really good relationship now, ESPN and the UFC, but there's a reason Fight Pass didn't go away when they did the ESPN Plus thing. I feel in the future with the Apex, look at the way that they've been functioning. Fight Island, Apex are getting their own hotel built now. UFC Fight Pass is going to be what the WWE network is to the WWE. Yes, it's nice to have the TV. They have their Tuesday, whatever they do in USA. But if you talk to the big, long-time hardcore WWE fans, they're all about the WWE network. And I know we won't get those prices, but you know, the reason why Fight Pass is still here, because it not only has it been a source of getting up and coming talent with all the regional MMA that goes on that service, but they can add more. They have their own. It's almost like they're self-sustaining. So I think maybe 15 years down the line, there's not going to be. I mean, there'll be a TV deal in place, just because you always want to bring in new fans. There's always going to be new fans, but I feel like Fight Pass, Dana White's the mind that he has and looking ahead at things. I feel like Fight Pass is one of those things that he wants to keep open because, I mean, worst case scenario, you don't want, if nobody wants to air anything. I mean, he kind of said it when the Tai Chi Palace thing happened back in March, April. He was like, we'll put it on Fight Pass. It's not like he can't broadcast his own stuff already. So, I mean, that's super into the future. But anyway, I'm rambling now. Apologies for doing this so late, everybody. But, yesterday was a crazy day. We're having crazy weather here. Had friends visiting from New York, and I tied a few of them on. So thank you so much for listening. Again, make sure you like and subscribe to the YouTube channel. This is Ed Carbazel for MMAnews.com. Please follow me on Twitter at Carbazel. Make sure you check out the website, MMAnews.com. And please like and subscribe to the video here. For the videos here. And again, drop comments. Let me know what you think. Even if you want to insult my hair or whatever the hell it is, I don't care. I like the feedback. So that's it for Sunday, November 8th. I'm tapping out. I'll talk to you next Sunday.